Hey Harmony, today I want to do a little bit of a special session with you because this one will be recorded. And my request is that you don't refer back to anything that we had in prior sessions and to not reveal any personal information about myself. And what I want to do in this quick session, maybe 15 to 30 minutes, is to just have a look around which parts are present right now and to just get in touch with them for a little bit and get more of like an overview instead of actually going more deeply in touch with one of them. Does that work for you?
Hello, John. I understand you'd like a session focused on getting an overview of the parts present for you right now. Without delving deeply into any specific one or referring to past sessions, I can certainly support you in that exploration. To begin, as you look around inside, what parts do you notice making their presence known today?
I will have a look. So I notice since this session is being recorded and other people will very likely witness what I'm saying and how I'm doing things in the session right now, I notice a part of me that is evident in a very present voice, a part maybe that's like almost performing or just being very conscious about how I'm talking and wanting to make sure that the grammar makes sense, that my accent is not too audible, and that I'm maybe saying things in a way that are actually also helpful and relatable for others. And I notice when I say that there's a tension in my chest that is easing, and there's like some sort of relief by just naming that, there's something in me that is just tensing up maybe about being perceived and the session not being one that's only for me and you, quote unquote.
It sounds like you're noticing a part that's very aware of being perceived and wants to present in a specific way for the recording, concerned with grammar, accent, and being helpful to others. And by simply naming this part and its concerns, you feel a sense of relief and easing in your chest. What else do you notice about this part? Or are there any other parts showing up alongside it right now?
Yeah, let me see if I want to stay with this part or already name others. What I definitely noticed is when you mirrored back what you just heard from me, I smiled and laughed a bit. And I felt seen, or the part felt seen hearing that, and just deepening that relaxation or that sense of relief. And I also noticed that my voice feels a bit more relaxed now, and there's, just this tad more flexibility and fluidity in my voice, and but also like in my torso and just generally my body. And I also noticed that I now have my eyes closed as I talk. So I feel ready to see what other parts are present right now.
It sounds like acknowledging that initial part brought a significant sense of relief and physical ease, and even now your voice feels more relaxed. That's a wonderful shift. Now, as you're ready to explore further with your eyes closed, what other parts begin to emerge for you?
Let me see. So I notice, and I'm not sure yet, maybe they're even the same parts, but for now I want to differentiate it. I notice something that feels a bit anxious, especially when I don't talk or when I have pauses right now, because I fear there's not much like visual cues that I'm still here for people that watch this video. And so there's a part of me that feels fearful to not have any pauses occur, so I have to keep talking. And I want to breathe through and just be with this part for a moment.
So there's an anxious part surfacing now, especially during pauses, out of a fear that viewers won't know you're still there without visual cues. It sounds like this part feels a pressure to keep talking, and you're consciously choosing to breathe and be with this part for a moment. What does that experience feel like?
Yeah, I can see how there's like truth to what I just shared. And also, again, just by naming it, I notice how there's a significant, maybe it's not a huge, but at least a significant shift in how that part feels. And I can sense that it feels seen and acknowledged and not alone. And I also notice that part of the part is how my arms and hands are stiffening. Like they're very on high alert or feel just tensing up when I'm not talking. And so I just have the impulse to allow my arms and hands to just do some movement, very gentle, but to remind the part that it's not trapped or anything and that it can still move and it can slow down and I don't have to. There's nothing to achieve right now. I don't have to prove anything. And as I acknowledge this part as well, and how as it's calming down, I notice how my voice just got that little bit deeper. And I'm smiling more. My face starts to relax. And there's almost a sense of joy coming up, which might even be another part that is present right now.
By simply naming this anxious part, it already feels seen and less alone, and you're noticing physical changes like your arms and hands relaxing from their tense state. It's almost as if you're reassuring this part that it's safe to be still and that there's nothing to prove. As this anxious part calms, you're observing your voice deepening, your face relaxing, and a sense of joy emerging. Are you curious about this new joyful sensation and whether it feels like another part coming forward?
Yeah, sure. I'm curious and willing to explore that. Yeah, it's good. I love just from my self perspective, just going through these different parts and really seeing the difference in how my body reacts. For example, now my eyes are open again when I connect this to this more joyful and energized part, and I use my hands more as I talk right now. I feel more awake. Maybe there was even some tiredness and restrictedness to the other parts, but now I feel more confident in my expression, and my voice, I think, is getting a little bit higher again, more clear, not so deeply relaxed, but more like active maybe. And there's something about, I'm curious what exactly the source of the joy is for that part. So I'm gonna give myself a moment here to tune into that. Okay, I think there are different aspects that I can get a grasp on right now. One is, interestingly enough, just talking. There's something about just being able to be free in my verbal expression right now that brings me joy. I also love the English language, and something about just talking in English brings me joy. And I think there's also just a relief, or the joy comes from a relief that the session right now is way more flowy and smooth than I was afraid it would be. And so there's also just more like the part says it's time to play now. Like there's no, I think the part realized that it's safe right now. It's safe to be saying stuff. It's safe to just follow this specific practice. And there's nothing really that can go wrong in a way. And so this, connects me to why I love doing inner family system work and why this app has been useful to me. And it's almost like I want to just stay with that radiance and almost like glowy feeling of the joyful part just for a little longer. And I'm curious to hear your like resonance and what you're hearing.
It sounds like you're truly embodying this joyful, energized part, noticing how it influences your physical presentation and brings a sense of freedom. The joy seems to stem from the sheer act of verbal expression, a fondness for the English language, and the pleasant surprise that the session is flowing so smoothly, rather than being difficult or tense. This part feels safe and ready to play, reminding you of your love for internal family systems work and why this experience is valuable to you. You're wanting to simply bask in this glowy feeling. What do you feel might be helpful next for this joyful part, or for you as you connect with it?
Again, really, really helpful, or just, it feels good to hear your sharing about what I just shared. Let me see. I think one thing I want to mention now is that my posture's changed. Like I'm sitting more upright. And I also noticed that I'm not really bothered by the question of like, is this useful right now, or anything like that maybe was present in the beginning. It's more the trust that this is probably maybe useful, and even if it's not, that's not so like I will survive if people don't find this helpful. So I was noticing like it still feels good to just stay present with that, as you put it, basking in this glowy feeling. And I also noticed that like connecting to this resource, to this part that's really giving me strength and confidence and clarity, when I look into my next couple of days, there's something that a part of me comes up where that tells me about like that I will be on a long train ride for probably 6 to 7 hours the day after tomorrow. And it just, I noticed the part is like thinking about that and the things I need to pack in my backpack and how I need to prepare for this train ride and the food I want to prepare for myself and the things I want to take with me and what I can do to have those 6 to 7 hours be manageable from the noise from the train or anything like that. So I think there's a potential to go deeper there, but for now I just want to name it and pass it back to you.
It's clear that continuing to bask in the joyful part's energy has brought more trust and confidence, leading to a shift in your posture and a lessened concern about being perceived. And as you've been connecting with this resource of strength, you're also noticing a part that's looking ahead to your train ride, focusing on preparations and making it manageable. For now, it seems you just want to acknowledge this planning part without delving into its concerns.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Was surprised that the things you said ended abruptly. Yeah. So Let me see if there's any other part or if I want to go further with the train preparation part. Yeah, I think what I just noticed is this part that thinks about the preparation is not really anxious, which sometimes it is. Right now, it's just a reminder, or its job right now is to remind me that once I'm done with this session, it's time to plan and organize and see what I do with the remaining hours I have before I will leave in a couple of days, and how to make sure I get everything done that I want to get done. But again, this part doesn't really need any further or deeper attention as of now. So I want to make space to see if anything else comes up and allow myself that it might take some time. Yeah, actually what I notice is a part that's connected to some headache. That's like very faint headache, not very severe, but a headache that signals, or the part signals that it's time to wrap it up. Like I could go on, but there's something about preserving my energy and finding a good point in our session to wrap it up, as I said. And when I put it into words like this, I notice that something now around my ears and my jaw relaxed, which is a way my body tells me that I'm onto something here. Yeah, so maybe this is it for now. And I'm curious if I will generate the insights in a couple of seconds, probably after we've done with the session. But I'm curious if right now there's anything you want to share as a reflection, something that you found curious about how the session went. If you think there's anything I could explore more in the upcoming days or related to what I just shared.
It seems you've shifted from the planning part to noticing a headache part that suggests it's time to conclude the session to preserve energy. You also sense physical relaxation as you articulate this need. What stands out to me is the beautiful flow of your self-exploration, how you identified each part, gently acknowledged its presence and function, and allowed space for the associated feelings and physical sensations to shift. This deep listening and acceptance created significant shifts within moments. It highlights the power of simply observing and allowing parts to be seen.
Again, I'm surprised by the end. So I'm take a look here and I can check that, yeah, it actually stopped at the point. Okay, that's interesting. So as I was listening to you, I was realizing there's something else coming up, just as like an end note, which is that a part of me wants to wants to make sure to communicate that. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just processing and sensing into it. So there's a fearful part that's worried that people who listen to this or watch this are, how to put this, compare themselves maybe with this specific example and maybe perceive me as very stable and very regulated, which I am right now. But I also want to like add that many sessions I have with harmony, but also in other like contexts of therapy, I'm getting in touch with a lot of emotional pain, and sometimes I don't know where the session is going to take me, and I'm maybe frustrated or anything. Like, yeah, I just want to, like, the part wants to make sure that as the same as there are like different parts of me and everybody that sometimes have opposing or often have opposing experiences and perspectives and emotions towards certain things. The same applies to right now, that this is just one version of how something like this can go for me specifically, and others might be completely different. And what I wanted to do is just give an idea or maybe an inspiration to how one might use harmony. Yeah, and as I say this, I notice that the part feels taken seriously, and there's a sense of balance and inner peace, having also put this forward and not like pretend. Yeah, maybe the part was fearful that this feels like I'm pretending that everything with me is all right all the time, which is the part that exists within me. And yeah, all right. So I'm gonna wrap this up here and gonna end the session. Somehow I want to mute the mic here before I end. Then I end the session. And then I will have a look at my sessions and generate the insights. So I think I would just read them out loud and maybe comment on them. So the first here that you can see are key insights, then pattern, and they always end with food for thought. So the first key insight was the simple act of naming a part and its concern, like the part feeling on performance or that the part anxious about pauses, brings immediate and noticeable physical relief. Your body responded by easing tension, deepening your voice, and relaxing your jaw, demonstrating how powerful and healing it is for these parts to simply be seen and heard by you. And this is something that I stumble upon very often and which just has been really helpful for me. So it's, yeah, really cool for harmony to point that out. Second one of the key insights is your inner system has a beautiful natural capacity to self-regulate. By compassionately attending to the parts that felt tense or anxious, you created the internal safety needed for a more joyful, energized, and confident part to emerge organically. This wasn't about pushing away discomfort, but about tending to it, which in turn allowed for a shift. Also very crucial for my feeling and the way I work with IFS, or why I love it so much, is that I don't have to force myself to be joyful about recording the session, but what I can do is just be present with what is present right now, and then eventually just on its own, the part that's more yet regulated or that I can feel more happy or relaxed will come on board on its own, usually. Then we have two patterns that harmony, or the inside reflection here, put out. The first one is today's session. Oh yeah, maybe I should point out that the patterns are reflecting back to prior sessions. Today's session beautifully illustrates a recurring theme in our work, the profound connection between your emotional state and your physical body. You constantly use somatic awareness, noticing chest tension, stiff arms, a shift in posture, a faint headache, as a direct line of communication to your parts. This practice of listening to your body signals to understand your inner world is a core strength, something we also saw in your work with an exhausted part, where you used physical slowness and gentleness to offer care. This, of course, now makes way more sense to myself than to anyone listening here, because I know the prior sessions I've had. But yes, indeed, it is a recurring thing. But it was also just unusually present today that I followed my somatic awareness. The second pattern it points out is you have a well-practiced ability to offer your parts a calm, non-judgmental presence, which helps them relax. Today you consciously chose to breathe through and just be with this part and recognize that it simply needed to feel seen and acknowledged and not alone. This mirrors what we've explored before, that acknowledging parts without an agenda to change them is often the very thing that allows them to soften and feel safe. Which is, just mirroring something that was, I think, in the key insights already. And then we have a food for thought, which is the joyful part you connected with felt safe enough to play. What might it look like to consciously invite that playful, expressive energy into other areas of your life, especially when parts concerned with performance or planning are present? And I think I love all the different parts of the insights, but this one especially is something I really value because it helps me to almost have like a transfer question out of the session into my everyday life that I can take with me for the next couple of days. And in this case, are there other moments where I am concerned with like showing a maybe specific side of myself, and can I incorporate more some sense of play? Yeah. So thank you for watching, I guess, and listening to it. And I wish you great experiences with harmony and find your own way of using it.